Hey guys, welcome back to another video. The title probably clues you into what we're talking about today. It is, without question, the largest Battlefield 2042 update the game has received thus far. This is going to be quite a long video, even with me cutting out a lot of the fluff. I will, of course, be going over all of the patch notes, picking out the most important things that you absolutely need to know about. I feel like we've been talking about this update coming out for almost 2 months now, and we finally get to see the full patch notes. And of course, that's not the full story because we all know DICE loves to throw in secret changes here and there. So we'll wait for Reddit to compile a list of the secret changes after this update comes out on probably Tuesday, because that is when updates typically drop for Battlefield 2042. Before we get into this absolute mountain of information, if you enjoy the content, hit the like button. I upload regularly on this YouTube channel, so subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with everything Battlefield 2042, and honestly, everything FPS, because I'm looking for FPS games constantly, and anything that comes out, I'm pretty much going to try it. And be sure to join the Discord, link is in the description. Follow your boy on Twitter, that link is also in the description. So let's just get right into this stuff. To avoid any potential confusion, this update has actually not released yet. It is coming out either Monday or Tuesday next week, so the dates for that would be the 30th or the 31st. A lot of this information I have already spoken about in previous videos, so I will go over some things very quickly here. This is the update that's bringing back classes into the game. Each class is Assault, Engineer, Recon, and Support. Assault has Dozer, McKay, Sundance, and Zane. Engineer has Boris, Crawford, and List. Recon has Casper, Pike, and Rao. Support has Angel, Falk, and Irish. Along with the class update comes the familiar gadget restrictions per class, along with a class-exclusive class equipment. To incentivize the use of a specific weapon type with each class, weapon proficiencies have been added to the game, and they are as follows. Assault is proficient with assault rifles, and they gain 3 extra magazines. Engineer is proficient with LMGs, and they gain decreased spread while crouched or prone. Recon is proficient with sniper rifles, and they gain immediate and constant steady scope. Support is proficient with SMGs, and they gain faster draw time. By draw time, they do mean weapon switch speed and not sprint to fire speed. This update also comes the long-awaited and heavily teased Breakaway rework, and this is just some of the things they improved on it. They improved the top of the glaciers, the ice shelf, the oil rig, which now has 3 separate bridges going to it, the snow cave, they added a new crevasse, and the workers' village. Personally, I hope this map does play substantially better after this rework. The Manifest rework was definitely disappointing and did not have a substantial effect on that map in particular. Another new thing they're adding with Update 3.2 are brand new thermal sights. They added a 1.25x, a 2.5x, and a 6x sniper scope. These thermal scopes have been confirmed to not be able to see through smoke, but they can see through things that originate from the environment, such as steam or environmental smoke. DICE absolutely went about this the correct way, and I do commend them heavily for that, because veterans of the game will remember the horrendous thermoscope smoke meta from Battlefield 4 that they had to patch out of the game. Another very specific thing they're adding is a new NVK box suppressor for the NVK S22 shotgun. In an extremely overdue addition to the game, the base game tanks, the M1A5 and the T28, will finally receive Active Protection System, or APS. This is the same system that was added in Season 2 to the EBLC RAM. The base game tanks should have way more of a chance against all the things in the game now. Another very important addition to the game is they're adding below radar for air vehicles. This is straight from the patch notes. Flying below 30 meters from the ground will now ensure that you are immune to lock-ons from vehicle-based weaponry. Vehicle-based weaponry being specified here is very important because they will still be able to be locked onto by ground or infantry-based lock-ons such as stingers or SOFlame recoilless, stuff like that. DICE goes on to elaborate further in saying that they also reduced the height limits for helicopters because they saw instances of people flying so high that the lock-ons couldn't actually reach them. They have quite literally reduced the height helicopters can fly to. On top of that, they made sure that they didn't apply the same change to jets, so now jets can always fly above helicopters, so they should be a more effective counter. Alongside the vehicle additions, there are new weapons being added to the game, the M39 EMR, the MTAR-21, and the PP2000. DICE goes on to mention that if you are a Gold, Year 1 Pass, or Ultimate Edition owner, you will be receiving the exclusive items for free that were maybe not obtainable to you in Season 1 and Season 2. All you have to do is start the game, and this will be in your account. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are finally coming up on the brand new patch notes. I was trying to do that recap as fast as possible. I will mark the video so you guys can sort of skip through it if you don't really care, if you already know that stuff. But if you're enjoying the video so far, hit the like button and, of course, subscribe to the channel. And let's get right into these gigantic patch notes. An important patch note right off the bat in the Battlefield Portal section to people that create Portal servers. DICE has a note here that says, due to the scale of changes taking place with the return to the class system, some of your creations you made may need to be updated as a part of this update. In the Gadget section, a very important thing here, insertion beacons or spawn beacons can now be resupplied by ammo crates, and they can also resupply Tracer Dart and M18 Claymores. Some changes to the EOD bot. The EOD bot has sadly been nerfed. Its health has been reduced from 400 to 300, and some clipping things were fixed with it. The FGM 148 Javelin has seen some substantial changes. They reduced the reload duration of the Javelin by 10%. They updated the first-person screen and crosshair of the Javelin to better showcase its information and information regarding its current use mode. They reduced the damage of the Javelin to most tanks and aircraft when in direct attack mode. Top-down attack remains completely unchanged. The Javelin now has a longer lock-on forgiveness and has its MAC range extended from 250 to a whopping 450 meters. And the last change to the Javelin, they adjusted the trajectory of the top-down Javelin attack to be more akin to the real behavior of the weapon. But the Javelin isn't the only launcher to see changes within this update. Both the recoilless rifle and AA missile have seen changes as well. For the AA missile, they have increased its acceleration and top speed of the projectile. They added a contextual game hint for when you're in hipfire, and they can now lock on to empty vehicles. For the recoilless M5, they have increased the acceleration and top speed of the projectile. In a developer comment within the dev notes, they said, "We anticipate there to be less launchers on the field at any one time after this update. We've increased the acceleration and top speed of the projectiles to aid engineers as part of this system change." I don't necessarily agree with this assessment. I think that they'll just be the same amount of launchers. We will have to see, though. The next gadget to receive changes is the insertion beacon. The insertion beacon can now only be spawned on a maximum of 4 times before self-destructing. This change was implemented because all recon classes can now have a spawn beacon by default. The insertion beacon has also seen a change to where it no longer self-destructs if the owner spawns on it. The Claymore also received some changes. They made the Claymore 33% larger. They reduced its blast radius from 6 meters to 5 meters. They reduced its laser length from 3 meters to 1.75 meters. And the minimum activation speed needed to trigger the Claymore going off has been reduced from 3.8 milliseconds to 3 milliseconds. In a much-needed change to the Claymore, they have prevented Claymores from being placed too close to ladders, ziplines, or hanging ropes. But if you die, your Claymore will remain on the map. However, if you switch loadouts, all Claymores that you put down will be destroyed. The medpen has also seen some substantial changes and bug fixes. They reduced the amount of medpens you can carry from 3 to 1. They reduced the amount of time the medpen actually takes to initiate healing from 2 seconds to 1 second. They reduced the health per second gained from using the medpen from 50 health per second to 35 health per second. And finally, they fixed one of the most irritating bugs in the entire game. They fixed an issue that caused shock waves from explosions to interrupt medpens even if they were teammates or friendlies. This has killed me, quite literally, hundreds of times. That's going to do it for the gadget section of this video. I told you guys this video would be exceptionally long, and if you've made it this far, thank you, really do appreciate it. Be sure to like the video. In the gameplay flow and social elements section, they have completely revamped the loadout UI, the soldier selection UI, and they added class iconography to the squad list to communicate which person is playing what class. They have also slightly faded out the names of dead players on the scoreboard to better communicate who is alive and who isn't. In the general improvement and progression section, listen up controller players because controller default mappings have been updated to accommodate the addition of the new class gadget slot. Previously, there were only 1 gadget slot. With this update, there's actually 2 now. So they've gone ahead and just adjusted controller mapping. You might have to go into your binds and change some things around. And for you mouse and keyboard players, listen up, because what I'm about to say will be music to your ears. Hopefully, we will see if it actually fixes anything when the update drops. optimized mouse input processing to ensure that the input is processed at a steadier rate and avoiding mouse input events processing spikes. Also, fixed an issue where the Origin in-game overlay caused a negative impact on processing of mouse inputs even if the overlay was disabled. I really do hope that this is the end of the mouse input feeling terrible in Battlefield 2042, and let me tell you something right now. If the problem ended up being the Origin or EA Play in-game overlay, I don't even have words for that. But moving on, they have improved responsiveness of melee attacks. They've also improved the takedown registration on fast-moving targets. Sometimes you would try to melee someone and it just simply wouldn't give you the correct takedown even if you actually hit it. A new option has been added to the game under Display Crosshair Hit Indicator, and this option is called Damage Number Visibility. This feature is apparently experimental and is turned off by default, but when you enable it, the damage dealt to enemies will be visible in the Skull Train feed, which is in the bottom center of your screen, to let the player know how much damage was actually dealt in a fight. DICE also added brand new physical landing animations when jumping or falling. Different animations will play when falling from different heights. They also improved the fall damage calculation consistency. Sometimes you would fall from heights that were very short and take unbelievable amount of damage. Sometimes you would even die, so hopefully that won't happen anymore. And they also fixed an issue where the parachute basically wouldn't pull. And this has been trying to be fixed since, I think, the beginning of the game. Hopefully they got it right this time. And last but certainly not least, in the general improvements section, they updated the visual look of the UI directional damage indicators. If you don't know what that means, it's the red thing that kind of tells you what direction you're getting shot from when you are shot. Moving on to the hazard zone section. Just kidding, no one cares. Moving on to the soldier section. DICE has made a change that makes sure your health regeneration automatically starts 1 second after being revived. In another change to revives, they made sure that squad revives for non-support specialists now gives you a 25 HP revive instead of a 50 HP revive. This is not welcome, in my opinion. Everyone remembers BF4 20 reses, and it looks like DICE just added them back into the game. Fire modes can now be toggled when aiming down sights. The underbarrel toggle can also be toggled while aiming down sights, but it will require you to hold the button down. Moving on to the specialist section. First of all, Angel. Angel's loadout crate will now allow you to customize each individual slot in your loadout. They also reduced the number of magazines Angel's supply bag resupplied down to 3 per pouch, and Angel's loadout crate can now resupply the Claymore, Mav in Battlefield Portal, and the Tug's spotting beacon. But the coolest thing they did for sure is they added 2 separate interaction behaviors with the loadout crate. If you only press the button, you will resupply your ammo for your weapons and gadgets. If you keep holding the button down, you will open up the full loadout customization menu. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Boris. And how did they change Boris, you might ask? Well, in potentially the strangest way yet. The sentry gun for Boris no longer overlays targets, but instead highlights their name tags for Boris and his entire squad. Okay. Then, they went ahead and changed the caliber the sentry gun is actually chambered in, and it will now deal damage to all vehicle types, including heavy vehicles. The damage deals about 0.6 to 0.8% damage per shot. They also completely reworked the sentry gun's target prioritization. It will now focus targets on vehicles primarily, unless infantry is within 25 meters of the sentry gun. So, I don't really understand that, but sure, DICE, go ahead and do that. Moving on to Casper, and Casper only has one change, specifically for you little rat players. They fixed an issue where Casper was unable to deploy the recon drone while prone in bushes. So, rat away, my friends. Crawford has seen some pretty substantial changes. Crawford, first of all, has been moved from support to the engineer class, and he's received a new trait, which is called critical repair, which provides faster repair for vehicles and gadgets that are at critical HP. Crawford's mounted Vulcan bullet caliber has also been changed, just like Boris's sentry gun was, and it can now deal damage to all vehicle categories. Crawford's minigun will do about 0.1% damage per bullet at a fire rate of 1200 RPM. If my math is correct, that's about 2 damage per second. Moving on to everyone's favorite elderly grandmother combat medic, Falk's combat surgeon trait is now active with the manually equipped defibrillators. This allows Falk to charge the defibrillator faster to perform a full health revive compared to Irish or Angel, and basically just works the same way as it did before, but now they have to clarify that because there's a class system. Irish has seen some substantial changes as well. He has been moved from engineer to the support class, and as a support class character, he now has full access to the defibrillator. And they've gone ahead and replaced Irish's trait with one that Crawford had before. This trait essentially means that whenever you revive someone, the players that you revive gain Gadget ammo. And now, ladies and gentlemen, some absolutely deranged changes, in my opinion. Let's go over the list changes. First of all, they increased Liss's TV missile range from an already ridiculous 450 meters to a whopping 600 meters. However, they did increase the hitbox used to destroy the actual missile by 20%. This should mean that while it can reach out farther, it should be way easier to destroy. But not so fast, because they also increased the turning angle of Liss's TV missile, so you can really whip this thing around. They also made sure to fix several instances of Liss's TV missile not registering on soldiers and vehicles, and they reduced Liss's Armor Hunter trait on both ground vehicles and air vehicles. Ground vehicles, they reduced it from 175 meters to 125, and air vehicles, they reduced it from 400 meters to 300 meters. They've also increased the speed of the TV missile from 100 meters a second to 150 meters a second. So, I don't know, dude. Liss is just insane. And speaking of insane, the most well-known insane specialist is, of course, McKay. McKay has seen some changes in this patch. McKay's grapple hook range has been reduced from 30 meters to 24 meters, and McKay's nimble trait, which is the trait that allows him to strafe at full speed with all weapon types, has been slightly reduced when zoomed, in particular with heavy weapons such as anti-material rifles, light machine guns, and sniper rifles, but the bonus movement speed has also been reduced with assault rifles, DMRs, lever-action rifles, and it has been reduced slightly with SMGs and pistols, but not as much. However, keep in mind that they're also drastically increasing the base strafe speed of every other specialist in the game. So they're bringing up the strafe speed of all the other specialists while slightly reducing McKay's complete and utter dominance in this category. Moving on to Rao, they fixed an issue where Rao's signal hacker gadget had a lowering gun logic, which led him to basically lower his hand and gadget when close to walls and objects, which would interrupt you actually hacking anything. Speaking of hacking, hacked targets should now be targetable by teammates, similar to targets painted by the SoFlam, to allow more synergies with the engineer class. This is on top of the fact that Rao already disables weapons and countermeasures for vehicles. However, they increased the cooldown after hacking a vehicle from 5 seconds to 8 seconds, and they increased the time it takes to actually hack a vehicle from 1.5 seconds to 2 1/4 seconds. And last but certainly not least, in the specialist section, Zane's airburst launcher has actually gained a thermal scope. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, it's a long video. If you've made it to this far in the video, you're an absolute stud, legend, god, certified OG, should have a gold engraved plaque on the wall behind you that said, I watched Ender's video to this length. But don't worry, it's almost over. In the vehicle section, they increased the ATGM or air-to-ground missile damage to light and medium transport vehicles. In a massive change to one of the vehicle's gadgets, the EBLC Ram's insertion beacon will now always spawn you on foot if you deploy on it. Previously, you would spawn in the air. In a change to all vehicles with lock-on abilities, vehicles can only lock on when they have ammo available to do so. Descriptions for all tank turrets have been updated, and helicopters will now completely stall at 200 meters from the set maximum height of the level, as indicated in the previous change that I mentioned, 20 minutes ago. Another massive change to vehicles is the fact that the turret speeds for the base game tanks, the M1A5 and the T28, have been dramatically improved, which is a completely welcome change. The KA520 Super Hokum and MV38 Condor has seen the replenish rate of the 50mm cannon pod actually reduced from 6 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and the poor MD540 Nightbird has seen its Hydra missiles nerfed yet again, blast damage reduced from 40 to 25, replenish rate reduced from 2.25 to 2, and the ammo count has been lowered from 16 to 10. And last in the vehicle section, but certainly not least, this is one of the most hated vehicles in the game. Both stealth helicopters have seen some very interesting changes. The stealth bomb crosshair will no longer display for helicopters over 400 meters away from the ground. Stealth helis will now have the repair and flare equipment under the same slot. And the dev commented here, "It's dangerous to go alone. Choose wisely." And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the final section of this video. Again, if you made it to this point, you're just a legend. Like, polish the gold plaque. The weapons section. An interesting change to put in the weapons section here is actually specifically for controller players. Aim assist snap is now functional when set to 100% on PS5. The aborted reload on the 12-gauge automatic is now consistent with the other weapons. Increased weapon idle sway across the board for every weapon in the game, which is a very weird and unexpected change. And they fixed an issue where the in-game customization menu would move out of screen when the player's weapon is close to a wall. And I mentioned this earlier, but they updated ADS movement speed for Gadget weapons, especially Battlefield Portal weapons. Basically, they just increased the base strafe speed when you're aiming down sights with all the weapons in the game if you're not playing McKay. And that is going to cap off this extremely long video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm playing in a tournament on February 4th. Follow the Twitch stream. I also will stream Battlefield 2042 literally every single day. Drop my Twitch channel a follow. Join the Discord. Follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.